have to be so vigilant, and you have to be really looking and concentrating fully. But in a situation like that, when we see UAE allowing Karabakh to come to the front and take the points that were available still on the line there, you're not expecting anybody else to really go, because outside of Pogacar, the rest are way too far out, and yeah, it's going to be a one now where we will see that friction building between teams here. It's going to be an interesting one. But this is a day when you talk about, you have to be vigilant. You have to be, fully focused on this stage, because we can see, uphill, downhill. It's all the day, climbing, descending, very little flat in the valley sections. So it's another day for all who are still in this race with a lot to fight for, a lot to play for. You have to keep your focus 100% in this very short stage. And yeah, it's a one which has proven a majorly difficult one again, with this rapid start and riders everywhere all over those mountain on the way down, and some riders still on the way up.
MRI and Mass on their descent. You just listen. Well, I'm just listening to the complaints of the motorcycle here. They really are kicking on. Lovely to see Enric Mas, to be honest, coming good in the deeper part of this race. So many riders with so many stories of woe throughout this year. And of course you have to include within that, very much so, Jonas Vingegaard. Steady felt very, very good. There's the confirmation of the last point going to Jorgensen. Mas taking the 5, 3 to Amarai, Kelderman with the 2. And Jorgensen has not bought himself any friends with that 1 point that he stole, apparently, from Carapaz over that mountain. Well, you already saw the disquiet, I think, and you know, for the gift givers as well, UE Team Emirates, they'll be annoyed as well that Jorgensen didn't follow the battle plan. So anyway, it's time to reboot their minds for this descent, which inexorably will bounce in the valley, possibly the flattest section that we're going to be dealing with once we get to the bottom. There is another interlude of relative flat between Colmaine and our Finnish mountain today, but it's not going to offer up any respite because this has been absolutely full of drama from the very start. Amarai, Mas with Kelderman chasing here, and behind, well, the Uber descenders, some of whom have just started to come up towards the 4, as you can see within those who are chasing up and over the top. There's been a few recalibrations as well of personnel, some comings together. Simon Yates got himself back in. Oscar Onley, who has been very much an animator of this race, Sean, is also here.
Is he here?
I think so.
Bardet there on the front, I reckon. But we'll have to just wait and see here. But we can see here, you know, this is the main part of the peloton, the yellow jersey. It's just starting to fraction a bit here because some riders really pushing on a bit stronger than others. And we can see, you know, you count the riders there in that front group. It's a tiny group of riders already, and still over 100 kilometers to go over the most difficult part of this terrain.
Well, Shade, hard place to find, but the entire race, of course, in the shadows of Teddy Pogacar at the moment, and it seems that however he wants to race the day will dictate the form of it. And here he is, locked within a very high quality group, and it seems that if he is the impresario, then he can't call all of the shots. Tried to hand a solitary mountains point to Richard Carapaz, and as Robbie was saying, quite a man to have as a super domestique out there, repaying the favour. Well, we'll see at the bottom of this what sort of gaps we've got. This Clément Champozin from Arkea up front, one of very few French riders who are up at the within this group. But we've got, of course, Bruno Amarai a little bit further up the road, and Bardet, Sean Tix within that chasing group as well. We shall see. I'm sure Sean is absolutely bang on. 102 kilometres of the day. It's starting to swell just a little bit on the descent here, Sean, but no panic.
No, there's no panic. You know, you see the yellow jersey group.
So is this like
a?
And
they're all really pushing full on the descent.
Hello, hello, testicles, testicles. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
We can see the way they're coming
Looks
down.
like I'm
Taking
low.
a risk here, and we can see this group of the yellow jersey. It's a group that we can see Remco Evenepoel is on the front there leading him down. But
is this a 30-minute effort at 190-ish, 200? In at least 30 seconds or 1 minute zones, whatever. Let's do this.
In the front of that group, you're in 4th or 5th position, and just play the game safe. And that's what's about today for him for the moment. These technical parts, you have to think you'll get through this and not get into any tricky situations at all, because at this point in the tour, like Pogacar has won the tour. We see that yesterday, just again dominating on that final climb, and it's all about getting through and not getting any problems on those very, very technical and places, many places where you can get caught out.
Well, Lasse up, Lasse coming down as well, and we've seen some very sticky moments. Thankfully, in the past on these mounts, thankfully we've got the weather that has not always been the case on the run to on the Paris-Nice. Sean, beautiful weather today and virtually no wind.
No, perfect weather for racing. Maybe a little bit too hot for the terrain we're going over, because those climbs we have later, there is some, really serious climbs today. We have 4,600 meters of altitude gain here, over 132.8 kilometers. This is a real brutal stage again, and the way they have, tackled it, it's a very, very difficult one. And, it is going to be an energy-sapping day for a lot of the riders. But, yeah, these roads are very nice roads. Know them well from, in the past, Paris-Nice, finishing here a number of times. Trained here a lot of times as well. Beautiful roads, but the pace they're going, it's not beautiful for a lot of riders.
Well, we've spoken to the beast. Now it's time for Danny Rowe to join us.
I was worried about what you were going to say then,
Well, Beauty and the Beast, It's a beautiful day. It's fabulous to have you on board. It's been great, your first Tour de France, Danny. You've been brilliant, may I say. And so, indeed, has been the racing, hasn't it? And it goes on. It's absolutely relentless. Look at this.
It is. I've loved every single minute of it. It has been drama-filled, hasn't it, throughout? But the cream is rising to the top, and as Sean said, another brutal, relentless day for the riders. I'm actually somewhat surprised. I did think UAE were going to let the break go early, but it seems not. And I'm also very surprised that Matteo Jorgensen taking that point there off Carapaz. I think he's going to really, really fill UAE with a lot of firepower after doing that, when UAE obviously allowed Carapaz to come through to take those the remaining points available.
Henrik, how do you feel at the end of this tour?
To be honest, the feeling is much better than in the beginning. I had a really bad 2 weeks, but yeah, my body, I think, recovers from something, and yeah, now I'm the same like before the tour, no. And I hope this Henrik or this shape goes until Lombardia, and I can how do you say, I can
score?
No.
Take profit?
I can take profit from the shape and from everything.
Yeah. And now Movistar is still chasing first stage win, so I guess you have the pressure from the team for today, because it's last chance.
Yes, we were in all the big breakaways, in the important ones, but like you say, we're still chasing the victory, and yeah, today is the last day, because tomorrow we are not the best one on the TT, and I think, well, no, today is 100 to the last stage of the tour.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And we had our best wishes as well to Henry Mas, a classy rider, Danny, and not had the run of form he was hoping for, but getting better in the last, and indeed last chance today.
Yeah, we've seen that from a lot of riders, haven't we, that maybe suffered with a little bit of sickness coming into the Tour, but he's had a really good season. The Tour de Suisse, he was 7th on GC, and he's actually a rider that I highlighted for today's stage. As he mentioned, one of 10 teams still without a stage victory within this Tour de France, and with tomorrow's time trial, that rules out a lot of those teams as well, so it will be all in for him for today. He wasn't in the breakaway yesterday as well, so maybe saved some energy versus those that were in that break in that front group, and it's clear their objective for today, and that's all in for the win.
Well, if this is an homage to Paris-Nice, then we may as well, of course, hand over to Rob Hatch, who's followed the race in the company of Sean Kelly for many, many years. And he joins us now to take us over the Col de Torini.
Thank you, Cotton. What a start this is. It's been breathless stuff, but we didn't expect anything else, didn't we? This is this Tour de France. And we're looking at a figure who's got himself in a little bit of hot water over in Spain over the last couple of days. A few one-word answers to our colleagues from the television. And out there doing his best to be at the front. Looks beautiful down here today. And so, like so many days, Danny and Sean, it's taken so long for things to establish. Will it get established today?
will be an interesting one now as the group is getting bigger out front here. But we can see, the yellow jersey is back to 149 at the moment, so things are starting to settle back there, and yeah, we're forming a better group up front here because we can see the power is getting out here. But again, we're a long ways to go, and we're coming to the more I think important part, Col de Turini, which is a climb of 20 kilometers, and at this point in the race, when you're going real fast, it's not, it doesn't have to be the huge gradient. Of course, the huge gradient is always a difficult one, but you don't have to have a huge gradient in this part of the race after 3 weeks of racing, and the type of racing they have been doing. My God, they're just, killing each other every day, and it's going on again today right from the start because there's a lot of riders trying to get into the breakaway, and they're just groups going away, coming back, and the speed goes up. In the meantime, you're losing riders out the rear of the peloton, and there's riders everywhere on the road here at the moment.
Riders at the front, including there, you could see in the chase group, Romain Bardet. Still movement back in the yellow jersey group. Giulio Ciccone, he was making friends as well yesterday, wasn't he?
Well, I think everybody is very fatigued, and I think the nerves are frail, and when you have things going on in the peloton, and we did see there with Buitrago, he seemed to get a sticky bottle and maybe just went a bit too far on it, and in the GC battle as well, Buitrago moved up closer to Ciccone. He's only at 10 seconds, I think, time trial coming up, and maybe Ciccone feels that he might be stronger than him in the time trial, and nobody wants to lose a place in the top 10 at this point in the race.
Derek G's in the same boat, isn't he? He moved up a place yesterday, Danny, into 8th place, and we've seen him active early on and here with Ciccone.
Yeah, there's a huge battle for those minor placings behind, and that's what we're seeing from these riders. A top 10 in the Tour de France is huge. Riders holding different levels of fatigue at this point as well, and just echoing Sean with the frustration that Giulio Ciccone showed with that video that we saw. We discussed it on the breakaway of Santiago Buitrago taking a potential sticky bottle for a little bit longer than usual, but Buitrago saying that he learned from Ciccone himself.
Yes, and we're all in that boat, and I think Danny, you were probably in it as well after a finish, and somebody gave you a bit of a hard time, maybe gave you a bit of a switch in the run into the finish, and you say things on the moment. I certainly did. Did you do it?
Yeah, I'm sure I did, Sean. I'm sure I did. You're not thinking straight, are you? There's not much oxygen going to the brain at that moment of a race. So, yeah, I'm no angel.
I tell you what, we all get in the same room and the wooden spoon comes out. More on that in a minute. Let's go to motorbike. In fact, we're going up to what is coming up. This is the Col de Turini. 20 kilometers of climbing, 5.7%, but it gets harder in the second half, doesn't it?
It does, and I said on the breakaway earlier, it's lucky that the finish is not up in this one today, because Tadej Pogacar might be matching some of the rally cars on the way up, the way he's riding at the moment. But yeah, this is another serious climb, as we can see there, and as we have seen, it goes up to 1,600 meters, 20 kilometers plus of climbing. Depending on what happened now back in the main peloton of yellow jersey, will it settle? But it doesn't look like it's settling, because you can see, the riders moving, Derek G, Ciccone moving there. That is going to, make other riders have to move that are just ahead of them. So, the panic buttons will be being pushed by the director sportives, and they will be getting the call very quickly.
Yeah, you can just see a really nice graphic of the climb to come as well. So 6.5 kilometers, and then there's a little respite of a couple of K that you can see in that those green sections here before it climbs back up for 12 kilometers. And as Rob said, the last kilometer being the steepest at just shy of 8%.
Keep your eyes on Jan Tratnik here. Hand up there for Richard Carapaz, who's polka dot Carapaz today. And there for Arcaire, Clément Champoussin. Keep your eyes on him today. He is, as well as Matteo Jorgensen, the resident. Champoussin is the home boy. He's from Nice. He will have targeted this day for his entire life. As soon as it came up on the route, he'll have had his eyes on it.
It makes a big difference as well when you're riding on these roads every single day. To be able to then race on them and have the opportunity to take a stage is huge. So, yeah, echoing that of Rob there, for a lot of these riders, you know, they do live in Nice or Monaco, so they'll know these roads like the back of their hands, and it will just mean even more if they can take a stage or have a really great performance on a day like today. I know my brother-in-law Luke Rowe is out there with his 2 sons, and they will be on the side. Very different from him this year, of course, not riding the Tour de France, but he said on his podcast that he's going to be out there with cool bottles for the riders. I think they're going to need them today.
Tell you what, he's mixing in the higher circles now, isn't he? Frequenting with the stars.
Ben Stiller, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, and he put his top on and everything.
You can catch up with that, by the way, on... it's powered by Eurosport, the podcast, isn't it? What's Occurring, powered by Eurosport on all top podcast platforms. Yellow jersey group on your screen. Bidons being brought by Pavel Sivakov for the UAE team, who promised to let the break go today, but the racing is non-stop. Kevin Juniet's the latest to attack. Lottery tickets are flying around and no shortage of those willing to buy them.
If you've got the money. I mean, if you've got the legs. And anybody has got the legs here, and you know, Geniez, Groupama, FDJ, like, they need something badly, and you can throw everything at it here today, because tomorrow at time trial, you know, you're just going to get through the time trial, and as we heard from a lot of riders, it's going to be just a day, go through the motion. So today you can give it everything here, and they can feel that this break is slipping away here. 2:13 in the yellow jersey, so again, it's the time to get out of here, starting this climb of Turini, which is, you know, 19 kilometers still to go.
The descent is one to watch as well over the top, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. A long way to go to the top first. In the meantime, with Champoncet up the road, let's hear what his team's telling him.
Courage, hein, les gars. Champoux, t'es vigilant sur les mouvements, tu regardes bien. Jumbo va absolument mettre quelqu'un devant, ça c'est certain. Donc tu te laisses porter, et dès que tu vois qu'il y a 6-7 mecs, t'accompagnes, hein.
I imagine, Danny, that's the communication he received a little further back before he made sure he got into this group, because Jumbo, as they call them, Visma, if anybody's listening, we're just about getting it right 7 months in now. Jan Tratnik's in here, and obviously Wilco Kelderman's at the front.
Yeah, and also we discussed again on the breakaway that for Jonas Vingegaard, he would be okay with not all his teammates surrounding him on a stage like today. He is going to defend that place that he has on the podium now. We asked a question a couple of days ago as to whether he would try and take the yellow jersey. That was his big goal coming in to this Tour de France, but he has to put things into perspective with the approach that he had into the Tour, with that horrible crash that we keep talking about in the Basque Country, limited preparation versus that of Pogačar, who has had what you would call a perfect approach to the Tour de France. He is on his way to take the Giro and Tour double, isn't he? And these riders, his teammates, have been riding in service of Jonas Vingegaard for the entirety of this race so far, and he wants to now give them the opportunity to take a stage. It was heartbreak for Matteo Jorgensen yesterday, but now for Wilco Kelderman and Jan Tratnik, they can throw everything into this and then let Jonas stay safe behind.
Look at this from Jasper Stuyver again. He's riding a climber from the Alps, Nons Peters, off his wheel at the minute, who's had to really work hard to get back onto it.
Wow. This man is finishing again the Tour of France, and that's something we see. You know, Stuyven, more of a classics man, but we've seen him in the last number of days as well. You know, he's there in the action, up in the peloton when there's a lot of better climbers left behind, and that is the great thing, as I said. With Carlton, he was saying, a lovely part of the country. Yes, it is a beautiful part, and it's certainly this time of year. But if you're finishing the Tour of France and you feel good, if you're not in a position where you have to defend something, you haven't won something, but you're feeling good, well, then it's a great day to go out here and race and give it all and try and bust the peloton here and bust away up the road. And but if you're suffering, it's a horrible place.
At the front, Wilco Kelderman, who looked so good yesterday. Best form I think I've seen Wilco Kelderman in. Off the top of my head, since 2020 Giro, maybe. He looked fantastic. He's with Enric Mas, who's been desperate for some form, hasn't he? Certainly compared to where he was early on in his career. And Bruno Mirail, who is consistently classy. He's a real fighter too, and he's having a very good tour for Decathlon.
He is, and another team that haven't taken a stage decathlon, aren't they? So again, throwing everything into this. And there's been a huge amount of standout rides for me. We mentioned Jasper Stuyven there, Niels Pollitt, riding like 10 men. These kind of climbers, classics type riders, climbing phenomenally through this Tour de France. But that's what it means to all of these riders. They will come into this in the best shape that they can possibly be in. A lot of them having altitude camps between the classics and the grand tours to put themselves in the best possible shape they can be in.
Tobias Harlan Johannesson was on the back of that group there, still bandaged up after that shocking bit of road rash from the other day. What a combative rider he is. The team's been up there as well. Of course, we've had non-stop attacks from Jonas Abramson since the start in Florence. Still 33 seconds behind the group on the road. We saw, of course, that little group including Johannesson there at 1:58 from the three at the front you're looking at here. And there's a lot of climbing for this race still to fall into a pattern. We've had summit finishes here in Paris-Nice. Dani Martinez winning one. Primož Roglič winning another a couple of years ago. And behind, UAE for the moment are riding, and we always wonder how they're going to ride. What's the aim going to be? We heard the promise in inverted commas yesterday that it was going to be sit back and enjoy, but it's fine saying that, isn't it, Sean? But when the racing carries on and it carries on, you can find yourself in the situation where you are the ones directing the race almost without having to try.
Well, that is for a point. When the race is, you know, all over the place and they're racing each other, break trying to form, coming back, going again, then you have to be, you know, on the front and just watch and with your team, see who's going the moves. But when you get into a situation like this, we can see now, you know, 2:41 back to the yellow jersey here from the front of the race. They could afford to knock it back a lot. In the beginning, you have to keep a little bit of a pace on, because otherwise, if you knock it back, you know, big time, then you're open to attacks again. And we will see now if they allow this one to go out, or will they set that just that sort of a killer tempo which kills the breakaway, wrecks their heads out front, because they're going to be saying, oh, not again. Another place where we're going to be allowed 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And when you look at this final again, like, you need a lot more. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. We'll have to wait quite a number of kilometres more to see, are they going for the stage win again, or are they going to allow a breakaway to be up and off the road to win the stage and have a go.
Well, what we saw yesterday was something truly special. I had quite a lot of time overnight. If you're watching the news, you'll have known why. I had quite a bit of time to reflect on that. I was up all night boarding, waiting for suitcases. Trust me, I wasn't the only one. There are much more serious professions affected than what we're doing. But it meant that I didn't get so much sleep, and I was thinking about what we saw, and it was something truly special, wasn't it?
Oh, we are seeing history. We are in a very, very special era of our sport with the performances of Tadej Pogačar himself. He is in a league of his own. Yesterday, averaged 25 kilometres an hour up that final climb. He just rips up the script, doesn't he? Does what he wants. And also, it's his versatility, for me, that makes him so exceptional. Not just that he is the best climber in the world, but that he can perform over such differing terrain. He can win the classics. He can, you know, win Strade Bianche and then come here to the Tour de France and win by, well, 5 minutes so far. And what, you know, how much is that going to be stretched out after tomorrow's stage? It is truly exceptional, and I love watching him race personally. You know, some people are calling it boring. But look at the approach he had into this tour versus the likes of Jonas and Remco Evenepoel, who both crashed in the Basque Country. Another discussion in the breakaway as well, and we kind of came to the general consensus that we don't know when the next superstar, the next whippersnapper is going to come along. So for now, he needs to use this form and win as many bike races as he can. And not only that, to me, this is a team sport. His teammates are riding in the service of Pogačar, so it's respecting them that if he can win after all of the work that they've done in each stage, then of course he's going to go for it.
A man made to make history. And we'll talk about him more when we see him on the pictures later on. Tomorrow should be a crowning procession for the conquering hero. There's a winner to be crowned today, though, and everybody knows that there's a real chance. Enric Mas, for all of his GC consistency a few years back, has yet to take a big win in one of these big 3-week races. He's trying to do that here at the Tour, out of the general classification. A Movistar, well, they've gone for the last 4, 5 or 6 tours without winning a stage. Decathlon, which Danny was talking about, haven't won yet. Yes, we saw that this Melissa bike won with Jonas Vingegaard in the Massif Central, but opportunities to try and take it. And we know that there's a bit of argy-bargy after yesterday. We heard some strange comments from Maren Zeeman talking about popularity. I thought that was a little bit rich coming from the team that won everything last year, and then apparently this morning, according to the Dutch media, decided to withdraw their race radio communications from the television broadcast. So we will see how that develops. But it was nice to see Matteo Jorgensen fighting for the win. He's been trying to get up the road again today, and they're going to try and win another stage. They have Kelderman there. They're trying to get Tratnik there as well. But we're still in this phase where everything forms. Still, the gap between the first group and the second group, Sean's not really changing too much.
No, it's been a big battle here for the group to get across, and that tells the way the race is still going on full out in front.
Let Mark go in breakaways. Let Mark be in breakaways.
Sounds simple, doesn't it? Let Mark go in the breakaway. Well, Marc Soler has been put into the breakaway, and he's being allowed to take time very slowly, it seems.
Yes, and he doesn't look happy. He's starting to harass the guys there with him. And we know Soler, we've seen in the past, he have a history of that. You know, when he's able to do something by the team, we see in the Vuelta, there was a major concern. He didn't want to, wait for his leader, Nairo Quintana. I think it was in Andorra, actually.
It was. That stormy day,
yes,
wasn't it?
on that stormy, horrible day. And he created an awful fuss, and it took a lot of persuasion to make him wait up for his leader. We know he's a rider. He's outspoken, and sometimes what he says is not maybe what we like to hear. But again, when riders are on the bike here and, adrenaline flow, all of that, sometimes you say things which you regret a bit later on. But unfortunately now, you cannot say anything, around the race, finishes the starts during the race with, there's so much focus, so much, cameras, social media, all of that. It's something that you cannot leave yourself to do.
You imagine all the years back, even until recently, all of the conversations that went unheard, unrecorded. I'm sure just as much, even more aggro and discord existed. We just didn't see it as all.
Well, I had it down here in the Paris-Nice with my buddy Stephen Roach. On one of the stages, Stephen was leading and we were riding, and then Stephen got a puncture and we upped the pace a bit. And he wasn't happy, of course, but we took time from him, and then I managed to win the race in the end because he lost a lot of time on that day. And the words weren't very nice between us, but afterwards, we sorted things out, and we were the best of buddies later on. And that is what happens in sport when you're at that level and you're fighting, and there's so much pressure on, the stress is there. They do things come out that you do regret a bit later on.
Well, Soler, despite the outbursts in the group, is back there. They managed to get rid of the one rider. They're at 17 seconds, and maybe we were seeing there, Danny, exactly why that gap wasn't closing. They weren't getting on, they weren't working together like they should have done. Yeah,
there wasn't that cohesion, was there, that they needed on that part of the climb, and I think that's why we saw that kind of split up of those riders ahead, but they'll be trying to do what they can here to ride together, to be able to profit off, you know, having that slipstream in the wheel. And we know now, because of the speeds that these guys are riding up these climbs, actually it's more beneficial to ride on a wheel as to when the speeds were a lot slower. So these three still out in front, sharing that workload as we get closer to the top of this Category 1 climb.
Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back. We're in the final weekend of the Tour de France. It's stage 20, leaving Nice, going to the Col de la Cuyola. You're looking at 4 riders chasing on, led by Romain Bardet and Richard Carapaz. We're on our way up the Col de Torini, trying to chase the 3 riders at the front who remain there, who might not have the time to stop off here and get some divine intervention. Jonathan Harris-Bass knows just about everything that happens up here, though.
I don't know whether I know everything, Rob. I'm definitely going to fail.
Come on,
everyone
for
watching
the
that.
all knowledgeable, all powerful.
Well, we've got the Col de Torini, as you're quite right, and we're taking a look here at the chapel of Notre-Dame de la Menor, which is absolutely stunning, and just the backdrop here is quite beautiful. The Monte Carlo Rally obviously made the Col de Torini most famous, I think it's fair to say, but it's featured on the Tour on 4 occasions. 1948, I think, was the first occasion. Louison Bobet was in the lead. 2 years later, another Breton, Jean Robic, was the first to reach the summit. In 73, it was Vicente Lopez Carril who won in Nice, and in 2019, in the edition of Paris-Nice, it was the Colombians, Dani Martinez and Egan Bernal, who were doing so well. In 2022, Primož Roglic broke away on the Race to the Sun, and a race that I know is very, very special to Sean, but also you, Rob, having covered it for so many years. So it's certainly doing it justice, I think, today.
Lovely to hear from you as always, John. I'll come back to you for something to eat in these parts a little later on. Well, with 85 Ks to go, nearly halfway up the Col de Torini, we've got Adam Blythe back. Here he is.
So we are on the way up to the Col de Torini. I'm still behind the main peloton, but there is a lot of traffic back here for us. We've got all the camera motorbikes in front of me. There must be at least 15, 20 camera motorbikes around. So I'm so far back, so I've not seen the action. But this day today has been hard from start to finish. They have backed up ever so slightly at the bottom of Torini. The peloton eased off. Now I understand UAE is riding. They have Marc Soler there in the front. This could be a tactic that we see used in the past when a rider was trying to make up time, when they jump across to a rider, when they use him in front. I just cannot see Tadej Pogačar today. They're just in front of us now. I cannot see that him. We've just got one of the riders from EF there, Quinn, coming past. I cannot see Tadej Pogačar today letting another stage go. I think that he'll use Marc Soler later on in the race. Back to you, commentators.
Really?
Wow, that's a big call, isn't it? So what Adam was referring to then is using Marc Soler as a satellite rider, so sending him up the road, waiting for Pogačar to come across and then offer him some assistance in the final. But we will wait and see, because Tadej Pogačar did say yesterday, although Rob did refer to that being in quotation marks, that he would let this break go and they would enjoy the last stage where they could ride together as a team, but maybe not.
You enjoy it more when you win, Sean.
Yes, you certainly do, but they are allowing the gap to grow out. We can see 4 minutes at the moment, and you know, lots of riders in between. Let's not forget we have that other group there at 2 minutes, which was that Stuyven group we see getting out. So it's going to be an interesting one. And the chasing group as well, that group of Carapaz at 20 seconds. You know, he needs to get across, but we have the man from Visma Lease bike, you know, sitting on there because he have killed the man in front, and you know, this is causing the problem there, and a little bit of friction we could see with Soler, but he has a right to sit on track, Nick, because you know, he's got a man out front, but you know, that is going to upset everybody, and maybe that's the reason this group is at 24 seconds still trying to come across, and then the other group quite a bit further down. So another 20, 30 kilometers into the stage. When we get over Torini and onto the next climb of the day, that will be the important one, to see what the advantage is out front and where the yellow jersey is sitting at that point on the road.
We also know that the yellow jersey seems to be very keen on, and I think Robbie mentioned this in the breakaway, either yesterday or today. Again, excuse me, my yesterday has blended into my today. But he seems to have that in his head, that, you know, he wants to be the all-dominant, the greatest ever, that sort of Merxian attack on stuff. And, well, Adam's just suggested something to me, and it's hard to disagree with it. We've seen Mark Cavendish set that new record, haven't we, of 35 stage wins. Tadej Pogačar has 15 already, as many as Merckx did at his age. If he carries on like he is. And you also made a very good point earlier on, Danny, saying, well, you know, nothing's forever. We all thought that Bernal was going to win the next 6 tours. This might be a 2-3 year era. This might be Tadej Pogačar never being this good again. We don't know, do we? But if he's going to go out and win, of course he wants to be the best. He wants to win as many as possible, doesn't he?
Yeah, of course he does. And also Sean alluded to it on the breakaway as well. You know, injuries, illness within, you know, whilst you're at the top of your game in a sport, you don't know when they're going to come around either. So, of course, if he's in the position where he's going to win a bike race, he's going to go for it. I don't know if that record will be on the forefront of his mind, but it comes as a byproduct of a performance. And that's exactly what he's trying to execute here. The best performance that he can. And if that means winning a bike race, that is going to be winning a bike race. So it'll be interesting to see how they ride today, because of course in this Tour de France he doesn't need time. He's leading with over 5 minutes, and he could easily take another stage tomorrow in the time trial, being such a brutal one at that, on home roads again for Tadej Pogačar, who of course lives in Monaco. But he's going to try and win and be the best bike rider of all time, and right now he's in the best place to do that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's difficult when you look at cycling. You know, people say, oh, you should share it out. And when Sean and I had this conversation during the Giro, I mean, you wouldn't go to Leo Messi, would you? Say, don't score so many goals, Leo. You know, got to leave some for others.
There's no gifts. This is professional sport.
Yes, and a little bit like soccer, of course. If you're a striker and they give you the ball in the front of the goal, well, then you're going to go for goal. And if the team does it for Tadej Pogačar and UAE, and the team as well is so dominant, not alone himself, you know, he is you know, at comfortable in a lot of the stages here in the earlier part, and when he kicks off, that shows the way he's able to put the time into super climbers. And yesterday was another demonstration. You know, when you look at the final climb, 9.5 kilometers when he hit off, and he just took time out of riders. Like you see Carlos Rodriguez from Ineos, he lost 3:56 and he was fighting for the GC, and the other riders as well. Derek G, for example, 3:27. Santiago Butrago, 4:11. Those guys were fighting for their life, because they're in the top of the GC rankings, in the top 10, and that just shows how, you know, this guy, he's an extraordinary athlete. And you know, when you're riding like that, then the team does the job and you just finish it off in the end. And you know, you don't have to think about, okay, yeah, I better be careful in the end, I need teammates with me, I need to be calculating here, because if I'm, you know, a bit difficult in the final climb and I get attacked by, you know, the second, the third, the fourth guy in the general classification, he has such a team around him. Like, he's in the armchair on those climbs, and then he just does his thing in the end. And by that, because of that, he's just chalking up wins and wins. And yeah, he's looking at Cavendish's record there.
Well, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, while we were waiting for clearance to take off, I got some more Tadej Pogačar stats. We'll give him in a minute after we recognise the fact that the local boy, Clément Champoussin, has been dropped from that chasing group. The chasing group to just 8 seconds now, which is good for Carapaz, because he's looking for those King of the Mountains points. And we're more than halfway up the climb now, getting towards its more difficult slopes. But Pogačar, the double, more or less done, isn't it? All he's got to do is stay on his bike. He's a man made to make history. He's just the second rider in history ever to win 4 mountain stages in a single Tour de France. The other was one of the names we often ring off when we talk about the greats. Gino Bartali in 1948 won 5. Today is the 37th day leading a Grand Tour this year. So in the last 3 months for Tadej Pogačar, more than anyone ever, level with Eddy Merckx. Again, finished today. It will be more than even the great Merckx. And more yellow jerseys already in a single tour for a decade. Vincenzo Nibali, the last man to dominate so much in that 2014 race that really was one-sided. Not one-sided at the front of the race now. 3 + 4 is 7. Some big names up here. 9 Ks to the top. Let's go on to the route now with Hannah Walker.
This is the second climb of the day. It's the first categorized climb, the Col du Turini, and it's the longest of the day, 20.7 kilometers long. But listen to the noise behind me. It is quite simply incredible. And I'll tell you what, if I was to walk down here on the climb, you can't second guess who everyone is supporting here. The Dane, of course, Jonas Vingegaard. Total Energies are enjoying themselves on this part of the climb too. But I have to say, it's incredibly hot on the opening part of the climb because the sun at this time of day is searing down onto the riders. There's very little shelter. However, in the final 8 kilometers, it's a lot nicer. You've got the tree cover, it's sheltered. At the bottom, it's 35 degrees. Here at the top, it's 28. But the atmosphere is absolutely on fire.
Cheers for Hannah Walker at the top of the Col du Turini. Now then, 2 riders in the breakaway again for Visma Lease Bike. They've done really well the last couple of days. And they're sort of messing with the rhythm of the group here, Sean. Tratnik has gone up the front. There's a lot of looking around. And Carapaz is the one here who can't hold on, really, because he needs the points.
Yes, probably a bit more than sort. We can see they're not getting organised at all here, and Tratnik is just allowed off the front, and of course Carapaz, he has to react. He wants to take maximum points here. Still 8.3 to go to the top of this one, and it's going to be an interesting one because the 2 Visma Lease Bike riders, Carapaz is the one who has the big interest for the moment immediately to try and keep this one going and get the maximum points. But this will be an interesting one if it continues on like this. They are going to start losing time, and we'll have to wait and see what they will do. They possibly will get organised when they get a little bit more together here, and they have to.
Look round from Tratnik now. Carapaz in the polka dots today. That's Soler with his hand up, white jersey on. His compatriot Mas is in there in the blue jersey. It's Romain Bardet.
Okay, so we got 5 efforts at least 300. We can do this.
Yeah, of course it is. He took
Must be closer to 280.
On day one, and what a race that was with his teammate young Frank Vandenbroek. And this will be a way to bow out, wouldn't it? To take this stage. He's had a great tour. Such a popular rider throughout the whole of the peloton. He's going to enjoy those crowds at the top.
Tratnik in conversation on the radio. Kelderman with a little bit of deja vu. Of course, in the break yesterday. This is Soler. Quick conversation and a drink. You mentioned Bardet. We've seen Carapaz. Armirail. What a performance he's been putting in throughout the tour. Slopes between 7 and 10% towards the top. And Jan Tratnik continuing to ride. But we forget this man did the Giro as well. And he was out in breakaways. He was looking for success. He's done some riding this season.
He was instrumental as well in the classic season, wasn't he? Many times out front in service of teammates. So yeah, another phenomenal performance.
Okay, definitely 1 minute efforts. So this is going to be interesting.
One today to just manage that heat, as we heard from Hannah Walker there, as to the temperatures on this climb before we get into that tree cover, and it of course adds to the fatigue of these riders. So something else. So they'll be well used to managing at this stage.
Paulus looks like he was suffering a little bit there, just feeling an ache or two. Jeunette's the Luxembourg champions in front of him. This is Peters, who has won a tour stage down in the Pyrenees, but he comes from the Alps. 2:04 there is Tobias Harlan Johannesson and Jasper Stuyven in this company on this climb, continuing. They're not getting any closer really though, are they, Sean? 1:47, whilst their gap to the yellow jersey group is more or less stable at just over 2 minutes.
No, they're not making inroads here, and you can see the reason why, because out front they're really pushing on, and you know, they got out of the peloton just that little bit too late. The advantage to the front of the race was too much, and yeah, you have riders here, you know, who are width diving here, but they're also feeling the effects of what they've been through in the last 3 weeks, and you know, it's a difficult one to close that 20-30 seconds down, and you know, when they got out it was a bit bigger than that, and yeah, it's proving to be a difficult one. 150 almost at the moment, and we can see the yellow jersey group there is hovering at that 4 minutes 4:20 at the moment. This is the point now where we'll see if it's allowed to grow out and to become 6 or 7 minutes. Otherwise, with just under 80 kilometers to go, this could be another one where we could see it coming back together and the stage fight out of the main peloton.
Wow. These five, just seeing a gap develop between them. This is Sturven at the front, coming to one of the many hairpins on this climb.
You can tell Sturven feels good as well compared to the others. Nielsen Powell is here. We always talk about looking at the rider's body language at this stage and what that could represent. These riders will be so fatigued at this stage. They'll be feeling like zombies, and it's such a psychological battle as well. Those top 2 inches, who can push themselves the furthest, who can hurt themselves the most. Absolute warriors, a lot of them.
Sean's going to get his lunch, as is Danny. I've just got the signal from both of them. It's the first time in the whole tour we've all been in the same room, by the way, so it's very nice to be in your company, but I know that there's some chicken going cold in the next room, so I think it's time for a quick bon-app for you both.
Well, we definitely need it, because we haven't had a moment to bite anything from the start of this stage. It's just full on, so yeah, we're going to take a break here and yeah, come in for the final and be ready, because this is going to be looking like it could be a big fight again.
I'll be your domestique, Rob, so I'll bring some lunch in for you.
I need a few of those today. I think I need more than Pogacar today. Anyway, just do me a favour, will you? Wake Mr. McEwen up from his siesta.
Oh, you said it
We
live,
sure will.
Rob
We'd love that.
Robbie, is that the alarm in the background?
It's your turn.
Well, we watch Carapaz makes his way up the mountain. Big day for him, and lovely to hear from Tom Southern from his EF Education Easy Post team at the start of the day. Just talking about what it means back in Ecuador, and Richard Carapaz already is cycling in Ecuador. Rather like if you're of my generation, and Chris Boardman was cycling in the United Kingdom. Carapaz really advancing the sport. Already a Giro winner. Up there and continuing to work. .137 to these three. Just starting to make those inroads that Sean was quite rightly saying weren't there. .130 now. Is the image of a battler, a brave, hardy soul in the shape of Tobias Harland Johannesson. A couple of days since his crash. And Juniette's trying to get something out of this for Groupama, and it really hasn't been their tour, but look at that. Handout from Sturven. I'm sure we'll get a replay in a minute. Oy, 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 oy. He doesn't need any more of that, does he? Well, everyone's running on empty. We mentioned a couple of commentators next to me who were off for lunch. Unfortunately, they don't have the culinary skills of Mr. Jonathan Harris-Bass. they've had to go for a very well-known takeaway chain. I'm sure it'll go down well, but Jono, with 5.5 Ks to go to the top, we're still waiting for the things to play. It might not be a bad time to get your recipe of the day.
Well, I mean, gladly, Rob, gladly. For those people who've been stalwarts, staying with us right the way through all of the coverage so far, you will know that I have been having some battles with brioche. And I'm sorry to say, Rob, that I really was losing these battles, and I was getting quite irritated because quite a lot of stuff goes into a brioche, and if it doesn't work and you get something incredibly dense like I did the other day that really would just be more suitable as a brick to build a pizza oven, you get quite disappointed. But I did have another crack, and I am delighted to say that last night's brioche baked this morning for breakfast worked perfectly. So the recipe for brioche is now in, and I know it works. You need some milk, some dried active yeast, 4 large eggs, an extra egg yolk for your glaze, 60 grams of caster sugar, some white flour, some rock salt and some unsalted butter. Then you mix the flour with the salt and the sugar. Then you add the yeast. Then you warm your milk, add that to the flour, beat it in, and then you beat the eggs in individually. Then you add the butter, and you basically make a really nice, what's quite a wet dough. You leave it to prove. It doubles in size in a couple of hours, and then you put it in the fridge for about an hour. And then I'm going to finish off the recipe in a sec. We're going to be hearing for Tadej Pogačar in 30 seconds, so I better get a move on. Anyway, you then divide your dough into 7 different pieces, equal pieces. You roll it into balls, you put that into a tin, you preheat your oven to 180, and then you glaze after it's proved for another half hour, and then you cook it for around 45 minutes. That recipe, along with all the others, is on my Instagram page at JHB Foodie Cyclist, and have it with some jam and some rosé.
Daddy, you are on the very edge of greatness, and you posted yesterday -2 days till you join the legends. Is that a full focus for you, or is it just another day in the office?
Yeah, today is just another day in the office, I would say. Let's see how the race goes today, and focus on being concentrated, try to enjoy the home roads, the home climbs, and try to finish off with good legs the stage.
Are you already thinking about next year's Tour de France and maybe Jonas coming back a little bit stronger?
Yeah, I'm thinking not to go to the Tour de France once a year. Would be nice not to do it, but yeah, I think there's a pretty big chance to see me in the Tour de France next year, and for sure I will be ready.
And finally, do you have sympathy for the riders? The form you've shown this season in particular is incredible. People are talking about it all the time, but do you have sympathy for the riders you leave behind in your wake?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the shape that I have this year it's pretty great. Experience comes in a long way also. Now after 6 years professional, being always around there fighting for the win, I use this experience to win more, and yeah, for sure. Yeah, sometimes it's everybody works so hard for to win a stage or to be at the Tour de France only, no, and yeah, I must say that I have really privilege and luxury to win stages and to be in yellow. So yeah, but it's like this. One guy needs to be at the top.
Thank you. Have a good one today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Matt Stevens speaking to Tadej Pogačar there. 4 kilometers to the top of our second categorized climb today. First category climb, so 10 points available at the top. And Richard Carapaz in here. 14 points on Pogačar before today. He did take points over the last climb, slightly adding to his lead. King of the Mountains jersey looking like it's on its way to Ecuador. Second group on the road's really good organised. 52 seconds now. Jasper Stuyven running better in the mountains than we've seen him before. In some real form, the man from Lidl Trek. That's the longest climb of the day at 20 Ks. And in this group, it's the most settled it's been since the start now. Pogačar with almost his entire team around him. And Vingegaard too. He's got 2 men up the road. Pogačar having Max Soler at the front. Despite briefly being at the front, having several riders in the front, it was full gas again. And it's now Tim Wellens riding in the heat. He's very, very close to achieving one of his career objectives. Being in a Tour de France winning team and contributing to that final victory. With Almirai, Carapaz and company. 4:35 is looking good for the breakaway. Long, long way to go, but it's looking good.
It will be an interesting one the next number of kilometres because, as you say, Rob, it's looking good, 4:36. But again, I think it was about 83 kilometres. It was at 4:20. So it's not been allowed to grow out big time. And they could afford to do that. They could knock off the pace quite a lot there, UAE, and allow this group to get 7 or 8 minutes. So it's going to be for another while before we can see what they are thinking in the UAE team. Are they going to control this one and maybe try and get it back in the final? Because when we get to the top of this one, 3.5 to go, you know, then we have the downhill and we go on to the next climb of the day, which is the Col Main. Col de Colmain, and then we have, of course, the Coyul, 2 major climbs. And when you look at, you know, the 4:45 at the moment, I'd be concerned that could come down a lot before we get into the very final. And if that's the case, well, then the man we're talking about, you know, Tadej Pogačar, the way he can go on a final climb, you know, he could take a lot of time. Yesterday we see it, and we see it on many times. So again, for the breakaway, they would like to pull another 3-4 minutes out of an advantage on the main peloton.
For all of you sitting there thinking, my, that was a quick lunch. We figured that Robin McKeown wasn't actually having a siesta. He was working hard, recording a few delights for you to watch on the breakaway later on. So Sean's back with me for a little while. There's Christophe Laporte as well. And a conversation here between Almeida and Pogačar. Almeida, we think, is going to go and do the Vuelta. Pogačar has said he won't, but I know there will be plenty of you watching at home thinking, this is a unique opportunity to go and do all 3. That'd be quite some undertaking, wouldn't it?
Well, I think the question was asked to the manager, Mauro Giannetti, yesterday, and he said no. But he said you never know with Pogačar, and but he would recommend and advise that no, it's not the thing to do. The Grand Slam, I think we call it, the World Championships, that's the one he's going for. And of course, our fellow Irishman was a one who done that in '87. So yeah, the circuit also for the World Championships this year definitely suits him. So I'd be very surprised if he target or go for the Vuelta, because that would be, you know, a huge undertaking in one season. A feat never done, of course. So that might be a bit of a carrot there. And yeah, the way he's riding, the way he's recovering, you just never know. I think the next number of weeks will be very interesting, but I doubt we'll see him on the Vuelta.
World Championships in Zurich this year, hilly course around in Switzerland. Bardet and company at the front here. The gap is reducing to those chasing. They're doing a really good job, Sturven and company. 37 seconds now. Junietz and Johannesson with them. Peters and Paulus behind. First to be dropped out of that chasing group, by the way, was Clément Champoussin, local rider. At the front, if you're just tuning in on this final road stage of the Tour, penultimate stage with tomorrow's times trial, these are the riders at the front. 7 of them: Kelderman, Tratnik, Soler, Almirai, Carapaz, Mas and Bardet. And we've got Blythe on the bike.
So I'm just behind the Classics man, the winner of Milan San Remo, Jasper Stuyven. He lives down in Monaco. These are his training roads. He knows them off the back of his hand. I'm sure he's come and had a look at them before this Tour de France started, and he is climbing like a beast at the moment. We've got around about 10 more minutes, 9 more minutes of climbing before we reach the top, and then we've got the descent of Col de Torini. I did this on the motorbike in 2020, and it is by far the scariest descent in this Tour de France so far. For me, on the back of the motorbike, it's horrible. So I will report back then, but for the bike riders, for Stuyven especially, he should be able to make this time up. He should be able to bridge across to that front group with the knowledge of home roads. Back to you, commentators.
Thanks, Adam. Adam knows these roads as well. Used to live down there for a little while. He just talked about closing the gap there to 25 seconds now. In the meantime, all smiles behind. And here's the new Mountain Domestique sitting second wheel, Niels Paulit. What a job he's done. One of the MVPs of the whole Tour de France. Tim Wellens in front of him. These two on paper were supposed to be the two guys for the flat. We know that they can both ride very well in the hills, and Paulit's case has shown his best ever climbing form. Soler, their teammates, just on that group there, and we should be able to see the next group. Just under 2Ks to the top. Be interesting this, because if these guys were to get on before that King of the Mountains point at the top, you just wonder to what extent it would complicate it. Again, I think most people are probably realistic towards the top, Sean, that Carapaz stands to win that. But we did see on the last climb that Jorgensen went for the points ahead of him. You just wonder if anybody else would want to contest it up here. There's nothing that jumps out to me.
No, I don't think there will anybody contest it here. And it looks like up front, they're not really pushing on the last number of kilometers. You can see the way the leaders, the group just out in front of this one here, you know, they're just looking around, doing a little bit on the front, and then another rider comes and takes his turn on the front. But you know, they're not really pushing on big time at all, and that's the reason this gap is closed down, and the group of Stuyven there are about to make it as we get to the top of Col de Torini. And I think they'll be all happy that they're here, get onto the descent, and go to the next climb and see what the advantage will be back to the main peloton. That's what they're all thinking about now. Is this the one that will be allowed enough of an advantage to go and try and go for a stage win? The next 15-20 kilometers will start telling us that.
You tell Adam's listening to us. Mention that he used to live down here. My phone just buzzed. He says,
good ride.
Heck as ride it up there. He said, I did this climb.
These efforts are getting
Froome
challenging.
But it was the end of my career. He'll be happy to do it on the motorbike now. There's contact here, just over a kilometre before the top of the Col de Torini. And what a ride, in particular from Jasper Stuyven. He's a machine at this tour. 7 now becomes 10 at the front of the tour. 2 riders still chasing. Get the feeling they're a little too far back at the minute. Champoussin, and at the front wearing 57 there is Peters. Champoussin, the man who's closest to home, at Peters from the Alps. The twists and the turns up the Col de Torini. And the fervour on its slopes. This is Johannesson. The latest in a long line of Uno X riders who've been out there.
This sure feels like I just got out of the water with it. Oh boy. Good ride. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you another time.
Arkea Carp, they are stage winners now, after having taken it with Vauquelin, but it's not happening here for Clément Champoussin. Mechanical issue, and it looks like the legs are hurting as well, Sean.
Yes, we have seen the legs are hurting, and this is the last thing you want to get a flat on the climb. But we can see there that they're really struggling and not able to match the pace of that Stuyven group, and that's where you have to be got to do to get into the front of the race. And it's going to be a one where he's going to ride another bit out in front here. He is going to for the spectators, for his fans, he's going to